Hey, it's Study Reels, and today we're looking at relative formula mass. What is it and how do we find it? So this can be done in 5 easy steps, but before that, it's important that you have at least a loose understanding of the keywords found at the bottom of the screen and the prerequisite knowledge in the box on the top right of the screen. Give yourself 5 minutes to review and check that you know these. It's important so you can understand the rest of the lesson. So let's move on, assuming that you do understand the keywords atom, element, and compound, and that you do know how to calculate relative formula. So in exam questions, you're usually presented with a compound, for example, CH4 or H2O or H2SO4, and you're asked to find the relative formula mass. Usually they do give you the atomic mass, but I'm going to help you find where you can find the atomic mass, and we'll go through it like that. So the first thing you do is you have to identify the element, and you can use the periodic table for this. Then you find the mass number of each element. That's the atomic mass. That's the top number of the element in the periodic table. Then you look at the compound that they've given you and you see how many atoms of each element there are. And then you multiply those two numbers together. And in doing this, you calculate the total mass of each element. And then you add the answers for each element together. So let's go through that again. You find the element in the periodic table, find the mass number of each element, that's the atomic mass. It's the top number on the element in the periodic table. You note the number of atoms of each element. This is the number that comes after the element in the compound they've given you. You calculate the total mass of each element in the compound, because by timing the number of atoms by the mass number. And then finally, you calculate the total mass of the compound, meaning you add the total masses of each element together. So now we're going to simplify these 5 instructions into something that looks a bit easier to remember. So you can see here that we've simplified it even further. So step 1, find the element in the periodic table. Step 2, find the mass number, that's the top number. Step 3, find the number of atoms of each element. Step 4, find the total mass of each element. Step 5, find the total mass of the compound. So now we're going to remove the black writing, so it leaves us with the blue writing, and we're going to see what the simplified version is. First we find the element, then we find the mass number, then we find the number of atoms of each element, the total mass of each element, and then finally the total mass of the compound. So let's turn this into a list that you can actually use to revise for exams, because by now you must have learnt this and it should be quite firmly stuck in your memory. The first thing we do is identify the element. Then we identify the mass number. We look for the number of atoms, and then we calculate the total mass of each element. And then finally, we're ready to calculate the total mass of the compound. Now, a top tip is to spend 5 minutes to look, say, cover, write, and check these 5 points over and over again until you can do them without any difficulty. And in this way, you've mastered relative formula mass and you've understood it really deeply before we go on to the examples. And in the future, you won't have to struggle to understand